All right, we're talking about oil. And we already wrote this, but I'm just going to, so you know where I'm at. We're talking about what kind of, always the wrong color, isn't it? So we are talking about something specific. What are we talking about? Mineral oil, specifically straight mineral oil. And that's not B, that was 5. So let's just erase it, start, I'll edit this part out. So don't worry about that. We'll just start all over again, right? So we are talking about 5. We already wrote this. 5. We're talking about straight mineral oil. S-T-R-A-I-G-H. Straight mineral oil. And the name says it all. It's a mineral base. And I said it was examples like Aeroshell, just 80, Aeroshell 100, made from high viscosity index base stocks. Contains almost no additives. It only had one additive, which is?
Yes,
4-point depressant for improved fluidity at cold temperatures. And I said it is used for break-in. That's the primary use for this stuff. Now you go way back, and some people just liked it and they just ran it. But anymore, we can say it's used for break-in. I don't know anybody who uses straight mineral oil for anything except during their break-in period. So talking probably about 25 hours at most is pretty much when you're going to use it. But when can you not use it? All right, so you cannot use it, this is what Lycoming says, if you have a turbocharged engine. And they don't say why, but why do we figure you can't? Well, okay, so I think when I was at Lycoming school, maybe this is where I got it, the guy had said because the oil is going through the turbo controllers. But we're going to talk about turbo controllers, and you might think, I don't know, just really a gate that's opening and closing it, and it's using as a hydraulic fluid, so I don't really see what that, I don't see that is the reason why. I think that it goes down to what's the difference between a turbocharged and a non-turbocharged then? Well, a non-turbocharged is got a lower compression ratio because it's got a turbocharger. It says it maintains more of a flat pressure in there, and it's got a turbocharger, and that means the turbocharger's got bearings. That's what I see as the difference, and I think it might be bad on the turbocharger bearings. Don't know. All right, let's see. So now we're getting down. Those are the things we covered, and I left off right here. Mineral oil. Oops, I should say straight mineral oil. Straight. Otherwise, it just sounds like mineral oil. So straight mineral oil. Mineral oil does not suspend particles. Okay, straight mineral oil does not suspend particles. So when we're going to look at a different oil with additives, you have little particles floating around, and think about it as it finds them and encapsulates it and puts a little shell around it, and that carries it around in the oil with it. Well, straight mineral oil doesn't want to do that. It doesn't grab it and hang on to it. It just lets it fall to the bottom. Just like water. If I put a penny in my water, it would just fall to the bottom. It doesn't suspend it. All right. I'm not going to do that. It's disgusting. I know. All right. So it does not. And so because it doesn't do that, then it allows, because it doesn't suspend it, it allows sludge to build up. And it allows sludge to build up. Where is the sludge going to build up? Sludge tubes out in the front of the crankshaft. But we know because people are running other than straight weight in their engines, and sludge does in fact build up, that this is going to happen anyway, but apparently it happens a whole lot more if you use just straight mineral oil. There is this doesn't really happen anymore. Use caution when converting an engine that is operated on straight mineral oil for several hundred hours. So I'll put this. Use caution when converting from straight mineral to I'll just say from straight mineral, because use caution converting from straight mineral oil on an engine that has run straight mineral for, I put this in quotes, several hundred hours. The reason why is if you convert out, so an engine's been running it just straight, and you're going to convert it to the other kind of oil, which is an ashless dispersant oil. We'll talk about that. Then what happens is that the sludge will be packed in, and it could potentially loosen up that sludge. So sludge could loosen. Sludge could loosen and block passages. That is really not much of a problem. Lycoming recommends that if you do that, then change if you do, change oil. Well, I gotta be careful I write this, because if you just read your notes and you go, what, I'm supposed to change oil? So if you need to convert, ... then change oil every 5 hours. That is really a short interval. Now, let me rephrase that. Change oil at 5 hours. How about that? Hours. Then every 10 until no sludge is in the oil screen. There. Again, that's not something you have to deal with very often, but yeah.
I don't know if this is a stupid question or not.
I'll let you know.
Why doesn't sludge build up at the bottom of the sump?
It's probably a rather good question. You get, okay, sludge is this stuff.
Yeah.
So we have to remember what, okay, gunk, it's not a real technical term, but yeah, the gunk, the industry term, does settle in, and you get nastiness and a certain amount of the sludge you actually do get down in that sump. So when you take off a sump on an engine that's been running, and you take your finger down, you get this stuff. It's nasty. So it does get down there. It just stays there, and you wash it out. You don't notice it as much as in a sludge tube, and it doesn't cause problems like in the front of the crankshaft where it collects moisture and packs it in.
Is it more noticeable in those sludge tubes because it's a confined space?
Mm-hmm.
It comes in and can't really get out?
Yeah, because most of the time, when you're taking these out, and you're like, whoa, look at this sludge, it's nasty. But when you're doing an oil sump, you're cleaning it out, you just kind of scoop the stuff out and you don't think much about it. Like, oh, that was nasty, but it's not.
Okay. It's
already nasty and oily. All right, so that's straight mineral. And we can look at straight mineral, and it is just the coating, because most of the time we're using Aeroshell, the coating is just the number, 80 weight. If I said I want 80 weight, it's mineral. If I want 100 weight, it's just mineral. The next type of oil is going to be coated a little bit different. So the next type, and the more common, back when I started, it was the only other option you had. You had your straight weight, and then you had this, which is called ashless dispersant.
Would gear oil be a mineral oil?
Well, ashless dispersant is still a mineral oil.
Well, no, I'm saying like gear oil, like straight gear oil, not like something you run in your engine, like for like a differential.
Yeah, for differential. Is it a straight?
Would that be a straight mineral oil?
I don't know. I don't know what they formulated it to be. I don't know if it would help to have detergents in it. So ashless dispersant oil, also called AD oil, because AD stands for ashless disbursement. So our example. So one, we have Aeroshell, W80, and W100. So what is different? The W. What does the W stand for? Oh, somebody said it. Why do you say winter?
Because, well, at least for car oil, that like it would the 10s. The 10 would be like what it would operate as in cold temperatures, as opposed to when it gets up to as opposed to operating temperature.
You are correct. Note that the W does not stand for winter in this case. They could have picked any letter of the alphabet, but yet they picked W. And it just made life confusing. They could have called it Alpha 80, and we'd go, oh, it's because it's Ashless Dispersion 80. And everybody, or AD 80, and everybody would say, oh, that makes perfect sense. But they said, no, let's call it W 80, which is going to just make you go, oh, why did you do that? Because it's going to get worse. All right, so we had a question yesterday. Let's see, example. We had those two examples, and what does AD mean? What does AD mean? Means airworthiness directive. No, okay. I'll try and condense this, but the term ashless means that if all the additives are burned in a beaker, must be a beaker, there would be no ash remaining. A non-ash compounds are usually metallic compounds. Metallic compounds in the combustion chamber can cause hot spots and pre-ignition. Got that? So the additives that they put it, so you take straight mineral, you put the additives in, and now it becomes AD oil. So it's just ashless dispersant, has what some people call detergents and additives in it. So otherwise it's the same thing. You start with that, put some stuff in it, some magic foo-foo dust. Now it's called ashless dispersant. But where does the term ashless come from? If you take all the additives that they're about to put in it, we said, wait, let's put it in a beaker. A beaker's a little cup, right? You put it in a coffee cup and you burn it, what's going to be left is no ash. That's important because the stuff that does make ash means it has a metallic compound. If you're running metallic compounds in aircraft engines, there's the potential for metallic compounds in combustion chamber can cause hot spots and pre-ignition. Pre-ignition means what? Does not mean detonation. Okay, so yeah, they don't really should give it. This is the textbook, but so we'll say it's igniting the fuel and air before you want it to, or before it should. Some people want it to fire it, but it's not. So it's before that. We'll say before it should. So if you ignite the fuel air mixture before it should, that's called pre-ignition. That's not a problem. What is a problem with pre-ignition is that it can lead to detonation. What is the problem with detonation? Okay, you can destroy an engine in a matter of seconds, literally. It is the difference between pushing on the piston and hitting it with a sledgehammer, which destroys bearings, causes cracks, stress cracks, and leads to failure. It can melt the pistons down. So detonation is very bad. Pre-ignition is not necessarily bad, as long as it doesn't do anything. So why is it a big deal with aircraft, but we don't worry about it with cars?
Knock sensors.
Knock sensor, what?
Oh,
You're not gonna die.
yeah.
Knock sensors. Knock sensors in a computer. So you've got a little component that's sitting there listening to your engine in your car and pulling back the timing and doing stuff, magic stuff, until it doesn't detonate anymore. Right? But the aircraft, we can't hear it because the propeller makes too much noise, and it would just detonate until it stopped. And they go, like, I guess we had detonation. That's bad. So AD mean if the additives were burned in a beaker there would be no ash. Is that good enough for you? All right. I could put additives. Oh boy, we're way behind now. Okay. Additives that leave ash. Let me see. Are usually metallic compounds. Ironically, that was the name of my band, Metallic Compounds. It wasn't. Using metallic compounds that can cause hot spots. That's not, okay, hotspot has nothing to do with Wi-Fi, all right? Hotspots. How many of you are actually sitting there thinking, hotspot, so I get free Wi-Fi? How are you getting Wi-Fi out of this stuff?
Hey Kevin, last semester, what did you say pinging was?
Detonation.
Oh, okay.
Pinging is, it's same, it's just what we call it in cars, right?
Okay.
Pinging. All right, well, we got ashless out of there. So, well, I should say, what is ashless? What does ashless mean? I know what ashless means. All right, dispersant. Dispersant means that, I'll say that the oil suspends contaminants in the oil and carries them to the oil filters. Dispersant means that the oil suspends contaminants Do we have any fans of WALL-E, the movie, in here?
I love WALL-E.
Do you really? That's like one of my favorite movies. It's a great love story, is it not? We're going to bond over this. And they have the little guy who always says,
I even had
foreign contaminant. What did you have?
like the WALL-E, you know, what you call it?
Figure.
I don't know
The
what you call
figure.
it. Oh, do you? Yeah, he's like my favorite. He's my favorite guy. So dispersant means the oil suspends contaminants, foreign contaminant, in the oil, and carries them to the filter. And carries them or it, to the filter. It disperses the contaminants. So it disperses it into the filter. Then we take out the filter, throw it away, contaminants gone. Happy day. All right, so that's the difference between the two. So what does, by the way, while I'm thinking about it, what does Lycoming want you to break the engine in on if it has a turbocharger? Ashless dispersant. So some people have said, I don't know who some people are, that the problem with trying to break in an engine on ashless dispersant is that the oil is too good and will prevent like the rings from rubbing against the cylinder and breaking down the little particles and actually seating them in. If that were true, then how does a turbocharger ever break in? So I'll let you be the judge of that one. All right, so we have straight mineral, which is straight mineral. What were my two flavors? Aeroshell 80 and Aeroshell 100. Okay, then I have ashless dispersant, straight weight, and the two flavors are, okay, the W, and the W stands for? Not winter. Okay, Steve's got a comment. Steve, chime in.
So
Hit your buzzer.
You said on 80 when it means ashless.
Yeah.
The additives are burned in a beaker that would be no ash.
Yeah,
You mean like they're burned? Does it mean like?
in a laboratory.
Oh, okay. So they're not like they're burned in the engine.
No, in a laboratory.
Are you going to use your beaker in the engine?
Right now, he's thinking Beaker's a Muppet to begin with, and there's the whole problem there. So.
Like, when you mean like ashless, I thought like if there's like particles in the oil, it like burns it off.
No, in the laboratory, they have the oil and the straight mineral. They're getting ready to put the additives in, but the guy goes, "Wait a minute. What happens if I put it in this little beaker and I burn it? There's no ash. I'll call it ashless dispersant." And then he gets another beaker and puts it in. All right, so got it. You know what a beaker is, right?
Yes, the
Okay.
thing that they use in laboratories.
That's
Like that.
Laborium.
or biology class, you know.
It's like I've seen Breaking Bad. I know what they are. And I haven't seen Breaking Bad, so I don't know. Okay, so I've heard. All right, now, but those are the straight weight, right? Let me see.
Does the curve weight too?
Oops. All right. So what kind of oil is this right here?
Aeroshell.
Okay, what kind? What kind?
Straight mineral.
There you go, straight mineral. When should I use straight mineral?
Break in, but not turbo.
Okay, break in, but not the Lycoming turbo.
Just the Lycoming turbo. That's the one.
Continental that I've never. Last I looked, they didn't say anything about it. All right, then we've got the.
It's just
How do you know it's ashless dispersant? You got a big W, and the W stands for
not winter.
ashless dispersant. Washless dispersant. Okay. Now we've got multi-viscosity. All right, multi-viscosity. So those are all single viscosity. Multi-viscosity oils. Let's see. We've got some examples. We have, we'll stick with the Aeroshell. A-E-R-O-S-H, Aeroshell. W15W50 is the proper way to say it. What does the W stand for? There's two W's. What does the first W stand for? What's the second W stand for? Winter. Why are you doing that? It's just kind of, yes. It's like the automotive thing. And so now we go back to it's acting like a 15 in the winter and a 50 in the summer, is like what they're saying. So if it's really cold, it's going to act like a 15, and if it's really hot, it's going to act like a 50.
So my Honda takes 0 W20, so that's like basically water.
I know, I don't know this, my last Mercedes was, yeah, OW something too.
Oh, 40.
Yeah, OW40.
Does water lubricate?
That is like.
Lubricates my mouth.
I mean, what else would you compare it to?
I don't know, but I've often thought that. It's not like I haven't thought about that. I'm like, I don't know about this zero stuff, but we're going to talk more about this as we go. But I probably won't answer that one. All right, so Aeroshell 15W50. So this is the AD part, and that's all I'm going to say about that. And okay, so Aeroshell, so it is a semi-synthetic. It's also a multi-viscosity, so it's semi-synthetic. It's actually a 50-50 blend. I can write this actually. The first W is for AD. The second W is I'll put indicates the weight, WEIGHT, the weight of the oil at 0 degrees Fahrenheit. I even wrote it here. Some people say this W does stand for winter. Well, it really stands for weight, but. All right, so there's Aeroshell. And all of this right here, the first W, I think we're going to see that. No, sorry. That is an Aeroshell thing. All right, so 2. Another one, Phillips. Phillips XC20W50. This is a non-synthetic. So what does that mean? Yep. I don't write much more about that. It's just a, there you go. Phillips XC Aviation Multi-Viscosity Oil, Hule A Viscote Multiple. Wait, that actually says multi-viscosity oil right there. In the French, yes. So would this be we think this is a straight mineral or an ashless dispersant? It is in fact an ashless dispersant.
Is that what the XC is?
That stands for cross country.
It's because W in this number, right?
What's that?
It's Ashley's disbursement because this W, right?
Nope, that W stands for the weight of the oil at 0 degrees Fahrenheit,
Okay.
as far as I know there. Because remember, the other one is W20W. It's
Uh-huh.
actually W15W50. But this is an ashless dispersant type oil. So there we go. W15W50.
But how you
How would you-
can
yeah, how would you
recognize
know it?
this Ashley's disbursement in these numbers?
Since aviation.
I just know that it is.
Oh, it says engineered for radials. That's why it's different.
That's right here. It doesn't say that here. Because this right here is 25W60 and this is 20W50.
Either way.
Either way. I've heard it both ways. I believe that the W right here, ashless dispersant and Aeroshell, is an Aeroshell thing. And if you're looking at this at home, you can only see this much of it. So sorry. Yeah, I think the W over here is just an Aeroshell designator. That's what they
It's
do.
the same thing as the SAE, but
Okay, so what weight is this over here? SAE 50. What is that?
Well, SAE 50.
What is it in aviation grade?
100.
100 weight. There you go.
It's the same weight motorcycle stick.
100 weight? Or 50?
Take 2050.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so that's my Phillips. I'm trying to think who else makes. I think there's somebody else now making synthetic. You use the Aeroshell, don't you? All right. Let's see.
And that's just because the person before me used it, so I just kept using it. No preference.
Well, let's just. I'll throw in some stuff right here. All right. So first of all, Harry uses the semi-synthetic Aeroshell 15W50. I read an article. I should have saved it, but it was interesting. They did like an analysis of trying to figure out what really is the best oil, and this article led you to believe that the straight weight Aeroshell W100 really had the best performance out of it. Me personally, I go with the Phillips XC2050, and I'll tell you why. When I was building engines, I bought a lot of stuff from a company that's not around anymore. Continental bought them out. Engine Components Incorporated. So the only three people out there making cylinders were the factory, the OEM, Superior Air Parts, and ECI. And ECI, they were making crankshafts, cylinders, I mean, all kinds of stuff, and great stuff at a good price. And they wanted you to break in their engines on Phillips XC2050. And they said, okay, here's a multi-viscosity it's an AD oil, and we want you to break our engines in on it. And when you're done breaking into engines on the Phillips, just keep using it. It's great oil. It will break in on it. Trust us, and just keep using it. So I started using that in all the engines that I built. I have no problems whatsoever with it. So I like that. Let's think this through a little bit. So is it really a big deal if you get a factory Lycoming and doesn't have a turbo or a Continental, and you say, okay, first 25 hours, I'm going to run just straight mineral because that's what they want. And say I run 25 hours straight mineral, hit the 25-hour mark, drain it out, put in my W100, and I run W100. Not a problem, right? Okay, it's not. Fast forward. I don't know, 100 hours, 200 hours, 50 hours, whatever it is, you have a cylinder problem. Cylinder's got to come off. Take the cylinder off, needs to have a hone and a re-ring. Now what do I got to do?
Gotta break it in.
Got to break it in. So what kind of oil you want to use?
You want to use a quarter straight, and then the rest.
If it's a 6-cylinder though, then 1/6 minute. Okay. So there's always this problem now. It's like, well, wait a minute. Okay, so now, do I want my other cylinders running on just mineral oil just because of this one, or do I run 100 and hope that it breaks in? There became this big problem. Well, with the Phillips XC, it wasn't a problem. I don't know. It's not like Phillips has come out and said, hey, this works great for break-in. It was only a company making cylinders that said, we've tested our cylinders with this and it works. It breaks them in, it protects them, it keeps running them. We love this stuff. You guys use it. And so that's what all my engines that I built, I used it for break-in and then continuous. So when I got my own plane, that's the first thing I did, switch it over to Phillips XC. Yeah.
never ever think ECI had a contract with Phillips.
Hmm?
I would just, do you ever think ECI just had a contract with Phillips?
No, there's not enough money in it for that. They weren't that big of a player. There's just not that much money in aviation. So, or even if they got a small kickback, I think it would have mattered. But even if it did, all right, guys being cynical. As Smitty used to say, it takes a whole lot of attaboys to make up for one crap. He said it a little differently, but so what that's saying is one mistake is going to cost you a whole lot of great job. So let's just say I'm in the business of building cylinders and I'm getting a kickback from Phillips XC, but suddenly all of the cylinders I made are coming back to me for warranty because they wore out in the barrel because they weren't getting properly lubricated. How much kickback do I need to cover that?
A lot more than
If I'm only making $4 if I'm only selling this stuff for what, $8 a quart, and the cylinder costs $1,000, how many quarts do I got to sell before I can recoup my $1,000 plus the? So I don't think they were.
And then you're going to stop selling it because people are going to stop buying it.
Yep.
When they hear it's junk.
That's exactly what happens. Now you're out of business. So no, I don't think they were involved. They didn't make us do it. They didn't care. Anyway, that's what I do. So let's see. Let's talk about multi-viscosity. So multi-viscosity. And that's abbreviated multi-vis because now I've saved time. And what am I going to do with the time? SeaWorld. All right. Multi-vis oils use additives. Additives that, what? I know, he cracks me up. That allow the oil to act like two different oils. And that's not really true because it's not like there's a switch in there that's like, well, you got to get either the 20 or the 50. It's like, what do you want? It's like, it goes in between. So I guess it's an infinite number of oils, is it not? So, and how does it do it? It uses the spaghetti principle. I was just thinking of that. Sorry, for those of you who don't know, AJ's so poor, his spaghetti is nothing but ramen noodles and ketchup.
Yeah.
Actually, no, it's actually a story he was telling. What, somebody you know really likes plain noodles?
Yeah, my girlfriend's sisters.
Yeah. We
And
just
I
put
was like, I'm not gonna eat that.
olive oil, so he just dug in the refrigerator till he found.
Yep.
Right. Additives act like spaghetti. All right, who knows how to cook spaghetti in here? Tell me about cooking. Tell me about cooking spaghetti.
You know, it's when it stick to the wall. It grows when it's hot.
Do what?
Grows when it's hot.
Grows when it's hot. So you pull it. You take a. It comes in a little box, right? And of course, I've got to buy the gluten-free crap. And so for a couple of people, it's right that much around, and you put it in the pot. And before you know it, you couldn't. So the spaghetti starts to grow as it heats up, just like Alex said. Alex like, yeah, I just said that, right? Yeah. So it grows when it gets hot. Okay, then now we can go back to our ball bearing principle. So different weight of oil is just different size of ball bearing. So when it's really cold, the spaghetti is very small, and the ball bearings, we want small ball bearings, so it's like that, but then it heats up, and it's heating up for the water. But anyway, it swells up when it gets hot, and there you go. And then when it cools in the refrigerator, it actually does shrink, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. It's all dry and stuff. So anyway, additives act like spaghetti, which is to say, we'll do this. Small when cold, and small and cold, hot, fat when hot. There we go, fat. What are you guys laughing about back there? Is there anything else I don't know. There's an analogy in there somewhere, but I can't.
Wait,
I don't know.
what did you say? Fat when hot?
I don't want to know. The additives do have they wear out, so they wear so that viscosity change is not linear. which is to say that you can't just say at every degree it's going to get a little fatter, a little fatter. It's kind of a funny curve, and so I don't know why I put that in there because I don't have the curve to show you. Let's see, added as where. So during start and cold operation, you are during start and cold operation. The oil acts like the lower number. The oil acts like oops, the lower number. Right? So if I have 15 or 15W50, when it's cold, it's going to act like the 15. And so that is going to be quicker lubrication. Quicker lube to the engine. Quicker lubrication. If I get quicker lubrication, that's going to mean less wear. That's a good thing. And then, of course, during normal operation, that at temperature, at temp, so when the engine is up to temperature, the oil acts like the higher number. Higher number, and that means thicker protection. I'll go back. All right. We gotta let Janet catch up. She's my pace car.
Thank you.
All right, full synthetic. We'll talk about that in a minute. Yeah, you guys squared away on all your other oils?
Yes.
Yes? All right. So customers are going to come at you and they're going to say, what kind of oil do you think I should use? And what are you going to say?
Baby
Not
oil.
full synthetic.
Not mobile one.
Walmart car.
Depends on what your principle of operation is.
Yeah.
So
Phillips.
you can do what you want, but my take on it, people will come, what kind of oil should I use? Well, if it's an engine I built, I'd say, oh, please use Phillips XC2050. It's it's what we built. It's what we want. But otherwise, they come in for an annual or an oil change, and hey, oil changing annual. What kind of oil do you recommend? I'd say, what kind of oil do you like? What are you using right now? They'd say, oh, I'm using the Aeroshell Multi-Viscosity 15W50. I said, that's a fine oil. A lot of people love that oil. I've never heard anything bad about it. And they say, a guy comes in and says, well, I've been using Aeroshell W100. I'd say, yeah, it's warm enough out. How's your oil pressure? Oil pressure's good. That's what I would use. That's a fine oil. I've read some articles. They say that's one of the best out there. PK comes in and what kind of oil you like, PK? He says, well, I'm running W80, and it's July. I'm going to say, well, PK, I think maybe we got to talk about W100. How's your oil pressure? So if it's a little low, I'd say, yeah, let's run you over to some W100. Especially in the smaller engines, like your O200s and stuff. I felt that they were a little more finicky with their oil. So in the winter time, I would switch my clients to a W80, and in the summertime, I would switch them over to 100. If they're only going to get their oil changed once, I'd probably go with the thicker oil. All right, full synthetic. Was tried but failed. Tried but failed. I like this. Aeroshell found increased cylinder wear and Mobil was sued. So a class action lawsuit demands that thousands of TCM, that's Continental 0475 2550 series engines that use Mobil AV1 synthetic oil be grounded for teardown, inspection, and overhaul at Mobil's expense.
We urge owners not.
Do you guys know who Mike Bush is, by the way?
Bush Light.
He's the inventor of beer. I don't know Mike at all. I'm familiar with his work, and I'll say that I'm a fan. I don't necessarily. It sounds to me like he was more of a pilot type person who became so involved with the maintenance of his aircraft. I think he flies a 310. Became so involved, and he kind of looked at stuff. And this is my opinion, and said that tradition was not necessarily right. That, hey, wait a minute, let's stop all of the. I don't want to call them wives' tales because that implies it's a negative stereotype about women. So old mechanics' tales. That's a much better term, because that's where they come from. So old mechanics' tales, and let's just look at what reality is. So it's like wiping the slate clean, because he wasn't an A&P, I don't think, and then he became an A&P and an IA, and he writes a lot of articles. He's written several books. I've read a lot of his writings, and I really like what he has to say. I know Larry and I he says the same thing. Hey, see that article what Mike wrote? So if you ever have a chance to, and you're curious, like I've mentioned the Sky Ranch Engineering Manual to you guys. I mentioned that one. All right, so a lot of my information came from the Sky Ranch Engineering Manual. That was written by John Schwanner, who owns Sacramento Sky Ranch, which was just down the street, well, not from where, over by Executive Airport. And I think he got it from his dad. So he was second generation. And they had one of the premier engine shops and machine shops in the valley for sure, and the only one in Sacramento. So he sold parts. They did non-destructive testing, cylinder overhaul, engine overhaul. They did a lot of stuff. He decided to close his shop. All of his equipment came to me. So we took over that stuff, but he wrote an engineering manual. It is phenomenal. Stuff I talked about with you, the little pin cap and making sure that the rocker arm hit perfectly and all. That's all stuff that I learned from him. And, but his book is very, very difficult to read. He does talk a lot about oil. Alan, you'd love it. He's an engineer-minded person, and he writes that way. And so it is heavy engineering with strings. I forget what you want to call it. What do you call that?
Partial differential equation.
Yes, he's got those in there, and microscopic strings of the oil. And the picture of the synthetic looks like this, but this is the picture. Whoa, okay. Mike Bush is more of the kind of guy who is just common sense. Plain speak. He doesn't get into so he just says it like it is. Okay, so here's what the people say, and this is anyway. Not that I'm plugging Mike Bush, the other one, but if you have a chance and you want to read some more, I highly recommend that you would read his stuff, because I really enjoy it, and I think he's pretty spot on. And he's also not afraid to point out some stuff that is just like, that is just grossly inaccurate. So it's funny. In fact, he wrote some stuff about, I was reading an article where he was taking his A&P test. That's kind of how I know he wasn't an A&P at first. And it was like, as he's reading some of these questions, he wrote about, some of them were like, well, this is just absolutely wrong because it can't be this way. And I'm like, yeah, I know. But, so I enjoyed that. All right, let's see. Oh, yeah. I forgot about that, so we got to get back. All right, so there's so much to talk about. It was tried and failed. Let's see. No longer available. Let me see. Full synthetic says, well, but no longer available as a multi-viscous synthetic oil with AD additive package similar to AD oils. I don't need you to write all this. You can't buy it. Full synthetic. But the nice thing about synthetic oil, well, we should be right there. It's tried and failed. I'm going to change what I wrote here. So let's do this. Should we do full synthetic? No. We'll do the blend. We'll do the semi. We'll just talk a little more about semi-synthetic. I know we already did it, but I got some other points here.
Oh, okay.
All right. I think. Let me see. Full synthetic, such as Mobile Lava 1, no longer available. Multi-viscosity synthetic with an AD additive package similar to synthetic oil has better lubricity or slipperiness than petroleum-based oils, as well as several other advantages. Unlike petroleum products, full synthetic. I should just. You probably wrote that. Just trying to make it simple, and I'm not. The nice thing about full synthetic, we'll just talk about this, and you can figure it does not coke. So it's got some, it's increased lubricity, Lubricity, I think I spelled that right. Lubricity, that means it's slipperier. Yeah. Let me see. 5. Let me see. What else do I have on here? Does not coke. Does not lose viscosity with prolonged use. With prolonged use. Who uses Mobile One in their car? See, whose manufacturer says you have to? Nobody?
No.
Okay, so who's Mobile One? Your Mobile One. How often do you change oil?
7,000 miles
Yeah,
or more.
7,000.
7,000?
Yeah.
Even-
Yeah,
8, 4. With Mobile One?
I run
Five
oil
religiously.
I run it till it's empty, and then I put some more in. Does not lose viscosity with usage. Okay, so my last car it took Mobile One, and when you reset the trip computer, it would go to 12,000. So next oil change in 12,000. If you drove a bit like a maniac, it worked its way towards 10. The one I have now, it just resets to 10 no matter what. So every 10,000.
But
Wait, so it
filters
depends
more-
on the oil?
What?
Your old car depends on the oil?
Oh, my car only takes Mobile One. It's not an option.
Oh,
And the filter would be changed before then, or?
No, that's the weird thing, and I've had that discussion with other people. It's like, well, wait a minute, your oil might be good for 10,000, but your filter may only be good for. But hey, they built the engine, and
My Honda doesn't have a mileage setting; it's a percentage.
yeah, that makes more sense, and that's kind of like my last car was. So if you're doing a lot of stop and go, high temperature driving, then the percent should change.
Yeah,
I
the
think
guy-
that's better.
The guy at the dealership told me there's a sensor
Yeah,
that reads your oil.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's the way to go.
That blew me away.
Yeah.
that's crazy.
But you all have spin-on. I don't. Mine's like a turbine engine. Turbine engines don't use spin-ons. You pull a canister out, and you have all the O-rings you have to change. My car's exactly like that. You got to pull out this big long thing, and it's exposed. It's right there. So you get the filter. Is that Chevy doing that now, or
Well, yeah, everybody's been doing that. Toyota's been doing that.
they don't use the spin-on?
Well, they use both.
Okay.
My 2001 truck, that's how the oil and fuel filters are.
God,
You
the-
unscrew it and then you pull it out.
Okay,
the truck,
yeah, that's
you
what I
go
thought.
in.
The spin-on for my Nissan, you could swallow it if you're not careful.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
it's like that tall and that big around.
It
It's
is.
like
The Mazda one I did today was that big.
yeah, that's why they want it changed every like 20 minutes. So, I might change oil light comes on before I get home from getting it changed. All right, does not. All right, so that's let's see, full synthetic. We have all that. I'll put let's see, that's the good. Well, sort of. I don't know. We'll just keep going. 5. So on the other hand, synthetic oil strips off parts readily. So we'll put oil falls off. Oil falls off because it's so slippery. It's also porous cleansing, is what this says. Porous cleansing, because its molecules are too slippery to hold scavenged lead, carbon, and other particulates in suspension very well. It is this pore cleansing action, particularly with regard to lead, that was responsible for Mobile AV1 being withdrawn from the market. So we'll just put that. Falls off easily and does not suspend lead well. How about we just get it to that? So now we know. So somebody says, hey, we're just going to go to Walmart and pick up some oil to run in these engines. Why don't we just get the best stuff we can get, which is in fact synthetic, and run it in our aircraft engines? Why do we not want to do that?
So is it destroy the engine?
Well, number one, it's not an ashless dispersant. So number one, not an ashless dispersant. So it could cause free ignition, which leads to detonation. So there's reason one why we don't want to go to Walmart and get oil, car oil, whether it be synthetic or anything else. Okay, so why would we not want to go then get synthetic Mobile One and put in our aircraft engines here?
It's too slippery.
It's too slippery. It's going to slide off,
It
and
doesn't suspend lead well, and aviation gas has a lot of lead in it.
yeah. Okay, so aviation has a lot of lead. Let's back up one. It's slippery and it falls off. Well, then how come we're using it in cars? What's keeping? Well, they got a little tray there or something?
We use them more often.
There you go. There you go. Okay, when was the last time you drove your car?
Yes,
A couple hours ago? Well, up until today, when was the last time I started up my aircraft and ran it? I looked at the log. January 7th was the last time somebody flew it. So, and that's common. When was the last time you flew yours, Harry?
Last week.
Last week, you're no good. When was the last time you flew your 140?
Oh, years.
There we go. See, I knew it.
So Kevin, when your airplane's been sitting for that long, don't you just turn it through a couple of times before you start?
And drop it a couple times.
No. I used to think of doing that, and now I just,
Well,
no.
to make that effective, you'd have to do it a bunch to get the oil pump.
You really do. It's not doing a whole lot of, it might work, and I don't know. I
And
used
then
to.
there's no pressure behind it, so it's not like it's gonna.
Yeah.
Well, it kind of comes out. You guys are going to see when you put your engine up on the engine stand. So, choose my words carefully. We just won't talk about that. So you're going to have to, you have to pre-oil it. And let's just say that apparently back in the day before when the classes were using the Lycomings, they would just put the starter on, and I don't believe this to be true, and just hit the starter and just run the starter until it burned or you got oil pressure. But when you put your engine together, I'm going to say you have to get oil pressure. I'm going to allow you about 30 seconds of use of the starter, and you're going to want to do it for starting the engine. So that's it. So to get oil pressure, you have to do it by hand. So you're going to have all the plugs, and you're going to be spinning that prop by hand until you get oil pressure.
All the
And you're
plugs
going to,
in there?
huh?
All the plugs in there or out?
Out. No, you wouldn't do it with the plugs in.
Plugs underneath the soil.
Yeah, so you can put it in and feel it, and you're going to be like, yeah, I'm not spinning this thing around with the plugs in. That's no fun. So, sorry, I don't know how I ended up talking for so long, but you guys are due for a break. My bad.